Hey, this is Mike Zwick from If Not For God podcast. Our show, stories of hopelessness turned into hope. Your chosen Truth Network podcast is starting in just seconds. Enjoy it, share it, but most of all, thank you for listening and for choosing the Truth Podcast Network.
This is the Truth Network.
The heart of every man craves a great adventure, but life doesn't usually feel that way. Jesus speaks of narrow gates and wide roads, but the masculine journey is filled with many twists and turns. So how do we keep from losing heart while trying to find the good way when life feels more like a losing battle than something worth dying for? Grab your gear and come on a quest with your band of brothers who will serve as the guides in what we call the masculine journey. The masculine journey starts here now.
Welcome to the Masculine Journey. We are glad that you're with us this week, and I'm really glad to be back with you guys this week. It was weird not being with you last week.
It was.
You know, I was in Raleigh with my son. My daughter had actually came in from Vegas and was visiting here, and so I took her back to the airport. And while I was over there, I went to have a meal with my son in Raleigh because he lives there, and opted to do that instead of seeing you guys, which I did miss seeing you guys. It was great to have some time with him, but I did miss you guys. It felt like a big void of my week.
It was a void for us.
Yeah, I listened to the show, yeah.
No. You heard us talk about you.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I heard you talk about me. So, yeah, I heard a few of the things. Mostly nice, which was good. You guys were nicer to me. You guys were nicer to me when I'm not here than I'm nicer to you when you are here.
I understand.
Yeah, but Robbie, can you tell us a little bit about last week's topic? Because we're going to continue it this week.
Sure. So last week's show was called An Interview with God. And so this is the Interview with God part
Drew.
It's actually the sequel, but we're going to call it affectionately Part Drew.
Part Drew, yes.
Which will all come into clarity as you listen to this. But the idea is we are about a week out from boot camp. Mm-hmm. And so we'll hopefully be able to do a live show from boot camp next week. But, you know, one of the things that Jesus said there, you know, at the pool of Bethesda is to the guy, you know, what would you have me do for you? You know, do you want to get well? Is kind of the picture. And so as we go into this experience, I thought it'd be really good for the team to just kind of say, Jesus, what do you want to do? Because I know Jesus is going to come for every guy at the camp, but how's he going to come for Robbie? And where do I need to get well? Because I know that we're called, very much called to healing. Because in order to run with God and be able to be the father, husband, all the things that I am, well, I can't be getting angry here or, you know, running out of control all over the place. And so in my own healing, where do I know that it's the next step that God wants to take me, and what do I want to work on at this particular boot camp? So does that give you a pretty good idea?
It does. And so last week, several of you guys went, and there were some of us that either didn't go last week or wasn't here, and so we're going to go this week. But before we get to that, two of you shared last week, Rodney and Robbie, and I want to ask you, you know, we're a week away from when you guys shared. You know, that was a week ago today that you guys kind of shared on that topic. Have you just kind of left it there for the last week, or has God continued to take you a little deeper as we get closer to boot camp?
Well, Mike, go ahead, Rodney.
Unfortunately, I may not have been as content as I should be this past week. One specific example was I just come home. There's really no reason for anything, and I'm just, dog wants in. No, the dog needs to go out. She needs to go, and I'm just like, well, the dog's up here. And I had already let the dog in, and the door was already open. The dog's in. I was like, okay, go back out. Okay. And the dog's looking at me like, well, you just gonna let me in? Like, get back out. And next thing you know, I just yelled at the dog, which I was really yelling at Sue, because she's the one that said, I told you she needs to stay out. And because normally it's like the dog comes up, so I just blow up, you know, yelling at the dog, which really means I'm yelling at Sue, and I'm just like, I'm supposed to be content, and is this what you're referring to, Lord? Is I'm supposed to be content in these situations, which is something I should not even be blowing up at all. And it's just one of those things that just got to me. So there's been a few little moments like that have reminded me, Rodney, yeah, this is why he's preparing you for this season, because you need to be content.
Yeah, and I don't think dogs pray, but you gave it every opportunity to want to pray. It's like, get me away from that crazy guy.
And
there.
I'm thinking you could get a new name at this boot camp. Knee.
That seems appropriate for this season.
Yeah, you'll understand that one too in a little while. But anyway.
Took me a minute.
And instead of Aunt B, it could be Uncle B over there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely have been in it. As you know, one of the joys of the season that we're in as a team is actually preparing for the talks, and it almost seems just phenomenally on God's agenda that He takes you into a talk that you clearly need a lot of work on. And I had no idea how much work He had for me right there in essentially the idea of calling and where that fit into, you know, essentially my self-control issues. And so as I was describing to you guys, I was like, oh my goodness, in order to have fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, you know, you got to have fruit. And it takes two to make fruit. You got to have Jesus. So do you mean to tell me that self-control is not up to me?
It sounds like it should be.
Yeah.
It does. It just sounds like they should have said, me and Jesus control it. But it's not
exactly.
It's the self-control. And so I've found that I've been erroneous in my ideas of self-control. It's something you kind of knew, apart from me, you can do nothing. But I don't know why I had not applied that into that particular fruit of the Spirit. But it's really quite helpful. But the other thing I thought about the fruit of the Spirit, Sam, that you brought up in what, you know, God hates was that there were the 6 things led up to the 7th. Well, have you ever thought about with the fruit of the Spirit, it takes all those other things to end up at self-control?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
That this is a culmination of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, you know, in order to get to that. And so I think that's in there too somehow. I don't know. But
So I need to focus on those other things and not really worry about self-control. I hear you. Thank you, Robbie. It gives me all sorts of freedom I didn't know I had.
as long as Jesus is involved, I think you'll be all right. Because apart from me, I know you can do nothing.
That's right.
It's like levels in Mario or something. Right? You can't work on multiple at one time or you'll blow up.
You got to power up.
You
or
can't
something.
level up until you know.
Yeah, there's something in there. Well, you brought up a point, you know, when you prepare for a talk at boot camp, one of the things when we get on the air and we share about, you know, what God's going to do for you at boot camp, the reason we can be confident of that is because He always does. He always does something for us each time. You know, some of us have been 3 times, 5 times, 1 time, 20 times. It doesn't matter. God's always there and He's doing something different. And as you talk about preparing for a talk, I've been working on the spiritual warfare talk this time, and God's really had me in a lot different headspace with it. You know, to the point of I was thinking the other day that when I let spiritual warfare enter into my life, I struggle to produce good fruit. Right? When I let myself get taken out in one way or another, I don't really feel like painting. When painting gives me joy, it makes me feel life. You know, I don't feel like working out in the yard because now it feels like work instead of creating something else. You know, that spiritual warfare is a break of a lot of things that I didn't really see it being a break of before.
And that gives back to guard your heart, for out of it flows the issues of life. If you're taken out, you don't feel like doing anything for the kingdom, your soul, or anybody else, really.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more depth to it that I'm seeing, and I don't know that it'll make it in the talk because I don't know it's for the talk. I think that piece may just be for me to practice some things in my life a little different and realize how the enemy's been taking me out. You know, so back to what we've been talking about is we know God's going to do something at camp for each one of us before, after, during, all that. And so, you know, part of was going in with anticipation and saying, what do we hope that He gives us, or what would we like to get? Right. And so, Danny, that brings us to you.
Well, I thought I was going to get a pass on this topic because I'm not coming to boot camp.
Yeah.
And Robbie shut that down last week after hours. After hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, man. And so, you know, having gone to boot camp in the summer, as I begin to look at it, so I'm kind of new to this, finding a clip and doing all this kind of stuff. So I'm looking and I'm going, and I come across this Bagger Vance clip, the authentic swing. And I'm like, okay, I played it a couple times.
Oh, go ahead. I don't know that we'll get the clip in before break.
Okay.
So we may have to come back and play the clip, but go ahead.
And so I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, okay, Lord, what are you trying to tell me? And so I began diving a little bit into that, and it got deep quick. And, you know, because it's more about not just what's going to happen at boot camp for me, and I think for everybody, it's what's God going to do in your life day after day after day, and unwind some of the wounds that you've taken and go after your true heart, who you truly are. And so that's kind of where this launched at.
Yeah, and we'll get back and we'll play the clip. Before we go to break, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, God's obviously able to do anything, anywhere, at any time, right? He can go do that. I think the thing that makes boot camp so special, and I'd like for you guys to kind of chime in, is what's different about boot camp in my everyday life. For me, I take time to be quiet, which I don't often do. You know, and so what's some of the other things about boot camp that makes that kind of special for that time, that allows God to do some things that we may not recognize at other times?
Yeah, as much as you, or at least for me, as much as I try to, you know, look for that time with God and listen, I don't listen as well as I do at boot camp. Mm-hmm. I'm away from home. I'm away from any pressures there. I'm not near the cell phone. I can turn that off and send it away. It's awesome just to be able to sit there and go, okay, I'm going to go out and ask very specific questions of God and listen. And sometimes he's talking about something I didn't ask about, but you have to be, that's what's great, is that I am much more at peace in being able to listen and take direction than I am in my normal everyday life. I get up in the morning pretty early, but I go to work and things just kind of start rolling, right? You get in your role, and it's hard even in the evening to get out of that and be settled. But at camp, I'm just so much more settled. And listening to the talks and listening to other men talk about what's going on in their life helps me just get in that groove. And it's just so much different than just everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was taking Gaither back to Davie County today, and Gaither's, you know, the guy who does the Gaither gun experience, and we're talking about playing classical gas, which I actually did for my men's group last Thursday. But there was some conflict that went on before that, and I ended up tight, and I couldn't play it very well. And I was talking to him how much better I could play it with my family, and he goes, well, when you get to boot camp, the whole thing will be different. He said, because God will be there, and it has a lot to do with the space that is created by the prayer and all the effort and the time of the people that are involved to invite God. And essentially, it's consecrated place, and there's no cell phone coverage.
Go register now, masculinejourney.org, for the boot camp coming up November 12th through 15th.
Robbie Dillmore here. Your mattress getting a little thin on top? Well, check out the new mattress topper from MyPillow. I sleep hot and my wife sleeps cold, which make its phase change material invaluable to us. It comes with a 10-year warranty, it's washable and dryable, and it's made in the USA, backed by Mike Lindell's 60-day warranty. And best news ever, go to MyPillow.com, save 30%, use promo code CARGUY, or call 800-943-7096. Remember that promo code CARGUY.
Hey, this is Rodney from the Masculine Journey Radio. At the last boot camp, I actually had a chance to respond to the warfare talk. Now, here's what Sebastian learned about the true reality of spiritual warfare.
The true reality of spiritual warfare, that there really is an enemy. It's not just me and God, but in reality, it's me when I get up in the morning, me when I go to work, on my drive, my daily life.
God has something for you at the next boot camp. Come register now at masculinejourney.org. Coming November the 12th through the 15th.
Hi, I'm Carson Kuhn. I'm Darren Kuhn's grandson on the Masculine Journey Radio. Mike's boot camp experience was like mine.
One of the things that I realized this week was that I need to take time to listen to God. I felt like the Lord had spoken to me and he said, Mike, how are you going to listen if you're always busy? So this weekend, what I've done is I've taken some time just to go on walks and to be alone and to think.
Join us young guys at the next boot camp coming November 12th to the 15th. MasculineJourneyRadio.org.
When I lose my way, and I forget my name. Remind me who I am. In the mirror all I see is who I don't want to be. Remind me who I am.
I was going to wait till it was absolutely over, so I did. So I did cut it off. I listened to the show, so I heard you dig on me about that, which was appropriate. I just been waiting. Yeah, but Andy, that was actually your bump in.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So I don't think I had ever heard that song until boot camp, and I can't remember who gave the talk, but it was about the new name, and it really spoke to me because. The video, check it out, it's by Jason Gray. The video really is cool in how it visualizes people how they've had the wrong labels put on them all their life. And as much as I'd walked with God, I really had an identity crisis. I really did. And that whole new name talk, I'll talk about it a little bit later, really impacted me. But that specific video did because the whole world wants to name us. The devil wants to name us. But God loves to really give us our identity and name us who we really are. And that's, identity is key to this message. So it just spoke to me. So.
Yeah, it's a great video. I encourage you to go look it up on YouTube. It's amazing. It's Jason Gray, who I am. Back to you, Danny. You were talking a little bit about your stuff, and I didn't manage the time well. So I want to come back to you and have you set it back up a little bit about the clip and why you chose this clip and a little bit about it before we play it.
Well, the clip is from Legend of Bagger Vance, who's a golfing movie, and I would say an avid golfer, but that would be posing. I love golf. I've had a mentor who was a professional golfer, and he didn't teach me much about golf, but he taught me a lot about life. But loving golf and watching, and there's so much in a golf swing. And I was talking to a pastor friend of mine this weekend, and I told him about this clip, and he said he took a golf lesson one time, and he said he won't ever forget what the instructor told him. He took a few swings for him. He said, I can tell you what your problem is. You're swinging from the outside in, and what you really need to do is swing from the inside out and come across the ball, and it changes the direction of the ball, and that's life. If we swing from the inside out, it changes our direction, and I love that. Because this just authentic swing just spoke so deep to me all the way back into, I'm not sure how deep God's going to take me, pretty deep, I think, and it's going to unwind some things as we pursue this. I hate I'm not coming to boot camp at this moment, but I'm not opposed to them. I'm going on record for that. Was that's the last one, and we'll be at another one. And I agree with what you guys were saying that there is time when you can just get away. And no cell phone service, not a chance to get on a cell phone where camp is taking place. And just get alone with God and listen, because I don't do that well. I love to talk, but I need to learn to listen better.
And then this clip, you got Bagger, and then the little boy, I can't think of his name.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but they're on the greens, and they're kind of looking at him at night, right?
At night, so they can tell what it does, yeah.
Right, and so he's talking about Juna losing his authentic swing.
Yes.
Okay.
You think Juna can win?
Yeah, if he can find his authentic swing.
Authentic?
Yep, inside each and every one of us is one true authentic swing. Something we was born with. Something that's ours and ours alone. Something can't be taught to you or learned. Something that got to be remembered. Over time, the world can rob us of that swing. It get buried inside us under all our wouldas and couldas and shouldas. Some folk even forget what their swing was like. You keep swinging. Keep swinging that club to authentic swing, part of the whole thing. Something we was born with. Take a deep breath. That's a good thing. To the sounds of the wind.
I don't feel a thing.
Just keep swinging that club till you're part of the whole thing.
So, Danny, what was it about that clip that really spoke to your heart?
Well, in the book Wild at Heart, the chapter on the question, do you have what it takes? And I've thought about this all week, and I've thought about how going back in my life as to how I've been so driven by people's opinion And what you guys don't know is I was scared to death to tell you I wasn't coming to boot camp. What were you going to think? Were you going to throw me out? I mean, this, you know, how the thought process goes. And everybody went, oh. I'm like, well, that's kind of anticlimactic. But
well, I did call you out for cheating on us with your wife.
You did, yes. And but
and we didn't invite you to the party afterwards.
You did not. No. So yeah. So everything has a price. No more. So, but it's been that way. You know, I play golf right-handed, but I write left-handed, and I eat left-handed. I do the important things left-handed. But in school, it was so, I didn't want to be different, you know, because there are not many left-handed people. But, so I changed my handwriting. I still have a slant toward a right-handed thing because I didn't like who I was. And somewhere in that, with being the kid everybody picked on, I kind of lost my authentic swing along the way. And it carried on over into, well, I'm 52, so now it's time to work on it, I think. And so not really knowing who you are and being driven by popular opinion. Maybe I should have been a politician. I don't know. But it gives you a chameleon effect. You just kind of blend in anywhere, which is not always a bad thing. And there are some good qualities of that, but just kind of change who you are based upon who you're around sometimes. And that's ugly to look at. So it's just those kind of things, you know, feelings of inferiority. I mean, 90% of the time I sit in a room full of men, I feel like I'm the least one there. And, you know, God tells us in Psalms 139, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. I've taught that, I've done all that thing, but he's got me in a season where I'm having to listen to the things that I've taught for years. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I don't like it, but it's those kind of things. But God never tells you anything. It's like what he did with me with Dad in the truck the other week was he's not telling me these things to harm me. He's telling me these things to bring out my authentic swing. Be who you are. Be who I created you to be. And the power in that will be fruitful, I think. So that's kind of where I'm at. I have no idea. I have buckled up and ready for the ride, but I have my hand on the ejection button just in case.
I think you'll be fine. Rod, did you have something?
I was just thinking, well, instead of listening to God, I'd just go do a poll. You know, we're in the election season.
Yeah,
just go do a poll. Yeah, just take a poll.
Get a text from a random number that you don't know.
Yeah. Give money to it. Yeah.
What I loved about that clip is the part where he says the should've, the could've, would've, right? Because that's everybody else's expectation. That's the world's expectation on you, and that's what robs you of your swing, right? When you can't live with the way God designed you to be because people are telling you should be a different way or you could be a different way or any of those, or you start to feel those things, it's just another form of shame.
Yeah. And that's where the masks come in. You know, I've got to be the person that they want me to be instead of who God really created me to be.
Right. And so you got to peel those things back and go find that. And we all lose sight of our swing, right? The world's really good at stripping it from us. The world meaning the devil, the enemy, you know, the old self, all that kind of ties together to do that.
Well, I think to his point, I think just to chime in there, I think we all sit around a room and we talk about the power of boot camp, and I think you get the authenticity from the speakers, which really the Bible tells you overcome by the word of your testimony, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. When we say those things and other people hear them, it helps both us who's given the testimony and those who are hearing it, because you're being free, you're liberating and letting God go and change and get in and move. You're not holding everything back and putting up just a facade.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been to a number of church services where the pastor is pretty authentic and will share from their heart. I've been to a greater number of where they just tell you what's in the Bible, right? And I think the difference in that is when people share their stories and you know that they struggled, and you know the struggle's real, it takes away the enemy's power to say you're alone. You're the only one that faces this. It's only you. So you're the one that's messed up, right? And so whether it's a pastor in a pulpit or it's guys from the stage sharing genuine struggles that God's helping them or has helped them overcome, there is true power in that. Yeah. And the power's in God, obviously, but it's also in saying, okay, I'm not alone in this. And that's what we hear often from the people at boot camp was, I thought it was only me that struggled with fill in the blank.
Well, one of the powerful things that as I began, when we signed up for the boot camp in the spring, summer, almost fall that it carried on to, was got to talking to Mr. Dillmore here, and he says, well, now I must tell you that we do the talks. It's not a video series. Are you guys okay with that? And my heart jumped because here are real guys telling real stories of what they've gone through. And so that, what is the scripture? They overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So your story is your story, regardless of what it may look like or what you may think it should look like. And I've struggled for, years with it, but I call it terminal uniqueness. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen, and that's never true. It's never true. So
no, it's not. Andy, I want to get to you. You have a couple clips. Which would you like to go through first? Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're going to share, and then we'll pick the clip.
Let's just do the Bagger Vance.
Okay.
So in this clip, this really spoke to me last year when we were prepping for boot camp. Robbie had put this out there, and basically it's Bagger Vance. He had been in the war. He had all his friends had gotten killed in the war, and he came back with kind of survivor's guilt, and it really had disabled him, and he wasn't really able to go on with his life. He was a great golfer, and he just backed away from that, became an alcoholic, lost relationships. And so
we're going to have to do that in the after hours because I mismanaged the time again. We're at 1 minute. So you set that up great.
Yeah. So come to the after hours show.
And you'll get to listen to another great Bagger Vance clip about the war and about, something else of healing that needs to be done. In the meantime, go to masculinejourney.org, register for the upcoming boot camp. It's coming up soon, November 12th through 15th, this next week. We'd love to see you there. We know God would love to see you there, and there's some amazing things that he wants to do.
Yeah, and the After Hours show is in the podcast. You can go to the podcast page at masculinejourney.radio.org. There you go.
Yeah. Or where you get your podcasts anywhere else. You can get it from iTunes, Spotify, Apple. What's the other one that we're in? Pandora.
There you go.
We're on Pandora now. So just about anywhere that you can get it, you can download Masculine Journey Radio.
This is the Truth Network.